Hi, my name is Carrie Eaton and I'm the curator here at the University of Wisconsin Geology Museum. And I'm excited to get to share some of our collection with you and some of the things we've been working on the last year. Now, our museum's history is very closely intertwined with the antiquity of our university. At the very first meeting of the Board of Regents in 1848, it was determined that a collection of mineral and rock samples from around the state should be gathered together to form a mineral cabinet. This letter or circular was sent around to Wisconsin residents and friends of Regent H.A. Tenney, and they were asked to send their samples to the University of Wisconsin campus in order to form the very foundations of our geology collection. This letter ends rather emphatically that every neighborhood can do something. And this was how our very first geology collection was formed. Now, many of the different science departments and collections resided in a few different halls until in 1877, all of the science departments and their respective collections moved into this building where they resided until 1884. Now, this building today is known as Old Science Hall because after a fire in 1884 destroyed several of the science collections, they moved into a new building which was constructed and opened in 1886. Which is now known as Science Hall here on campus today. Now, one of the assistants on this architectural feat was none other than Frank Lloyd Wright, and it is said that the rather intense Gothic architecture of this building was actually what led Frank Lloyd Wright to head down the path to his prairie style. Due to our museum's history, much of the collection represent some of those early years, including some of the type specimens that are featured in the original Geologic Survey of Wisconsin, Ice Age fossils discovered at the turn of the century, mineral specimens from some of Wisconsin's earliest mines, and not surprisingly, a collection of specimens that were collected and sold by Henry Augustus Ward and Ward's Natural Science. 1915 saw the deinstallation of a replica megatherium from the Ward's Natural Science catalog, which you can see here in the left picture, and the installation of fossil bones from a mastodon that were discovered in 1897 and 1898 in the southwest corner of our state. In 1980, our museum relocated to its current home, where it finally had the space to install a dinosaur skeleton. This Edmontosaurus from the Hell Creek of South Dakota was the very first complete dinosaur skeleton to be put on display for people to see here in the state of Wisconsin, beating out Milwaukee Public Museum by just a handful of months, an achievement that we here are unlikely to ever forget. Now, we are definitely a small museum, with just 5,000 square feet of exhibits and over 120,000 objects in the permanent collection. We consider ourselves quite fortunate to be able to welcome over 50,000 visitors every year and to give 1 hour long guided group tours to over 11,000 students. In a normal year, we're open for over 300 days a year and admission is always free. Now, in the 173 years that our collection has existed, it has, of course, expanded and grown. I'm going to highlight a few areas, starting with a few exceptional collections from Invertebrate Paleontology. This one here is the Waukesha Silurian soft-bodied collection. It hosts a wide variety of organisms from a shallow marine environment and has really wonderful preservation, which you can see here in this large inset photo of a leech, where you can see the very exquisite details of its segmented rings and its mouth parts. This collection was discovered in 1984 by Gerald Gunderson and Ron Meyer and was given to the museum. And just because of the wide variety of things found in this collection, there are many organisms that are still being described and classified today. Another collection I'd like to mention is the late Ordovician Big Hill Formation. This hails from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and was also discovered by Gerald Gunderson. My favorite pieces of this particular collection are the Eurektorids. one of which, as you can see there in the bottom left-hand corner, still has preserved chitin, kind of encrusting the surface of that specimen. This is also an exceptional collection, and like the Waukesha, is deserving of that Lagerstätte status. We, of course, have many petrologic samples, but in particular, we have a collection of cores from South Africa and Western Australia, some of which contain the oldest rocks you can find on Earth. And thanks to work that was funded by NASA, research being done here in the department, we were able to build a whole new exhibit in our small museum dedicated specifically to astrobiology, where we have a very large living Winogrowski column on display and the only Martian meteorite to be on display in the state. Like any good geology museum, we have a wide and colorful variety of minerals in our collection, everything from the historic to the more recent, and they are used in scientific research, education, and exhibits. Now, much of this collection was stored in our original compactor shelving that was installed in 1980 with wood panel drawers. And you can see the plywood planks there in the aisles and steel compactor rail units. Getting to roam the stacks was a real treat for members who would come and visit us on behind the scenes nights, but most of them never saw our other storage room. Now, this room was constructed in 2004 as part of a geology building expansion. This room was originally intended to be used for faculty specimen storage, and compactor rail units were actually sunk into the concrete floor. But due to budget shortfalls, the shelving was never purchased and this room remained empty. So when construction happening in another part of campus forced the museum to relocate its offsite storage, we were given this room. For more than a decade, the storage was comprised of cobbled together cabinetry and pallet racks and lab tables as a way of moving that offsite storage into this on-site space. But without dedicated storage for objects, it was very easy for this room to become used for multiple purposes. And as we know in the museum world, temporary is never truly temporary until you come up with dedicated storage solutions, which is why I was particularly pleased when we found out last year that we received a grant from the IMLS to renovate and reorganize this collection storeroom and build a new collections facility. This funding was supplemented by an internal grant that we received from campus to help us improve our laboratory spaces for training our museum students. So due to the rather small nature of this room, we designed the shelving to use every available inch while still retaining a work area, which was absolutely critical to making sure that we had the space to work with and train our museum students in best practices for handling collections objects. So instead of talking about all the specific storage areas, I would like to take you on a quick virtual tour. hope you enjoyed getting a sneak peek into what we've been doing so far in our new collections facility, which is a drastic improvement and will be absolutely transformational for our museum. And so I would like to sincerely thank the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the University of Wisconsin-Madison for funding this project. And I look forward to answering any questions that you might have. Thank you.